Loid Forger is one of the best comedy dads in anime. And it's not because he's goofy or because he cracks jokes, it's because he isn't trying to be funny at all. He's serious, professional, and calm under pressure, and then everything falls apart when his 6-year-old daughter forgets his homework or his fake wife accidentally kicks a hole in the wall. And that's the brilliance of Spy Family comedy. It takes a man who's trained to dismantle spy networks and it turns him into a straight man of a domestic sitcom. And yet somehow he never feels stupid or less capable. Today we're breaking down how Spy Family manages that balance, why Lord Forger is a great comedy dad, funny without being dumb, and what it reveals about how the show handles the tone, character, and emotion. Because if you look really closely, Loid isn't comic relief. He's the eye of the storm, the calm center holding everything together. But that calm, that constant effort it takes to control everything, that's the source of the comedy. By the end of this video, you'll see how Loid's obsessive competence, his emotional repression, and his desperate need for perfection create some of the sharpest, most character-driven humor in the anime. He's not funny in spite of being serious, he's funny because he is serious. So let's start where all of Loid's funniest moments begin, with his inability to control the situation and have things go according to plan. Loid Forger, codenamed Twilight, he's a man of infinite skill, of razor-sharp intellect, and unbreakable discipline. He can dismantle a national conspiracy, but he can't survive a family interview without having a nervous breakdown. And then that's the point where the comedy really shows itself. In Spy Family, Lloyd's life as a spy depends on precision. Every single move, every breath, it's all calculated. But the family life he's thrown into, it's the opposite. It's totally unpredictable, it's chaotic and emotional, and watching him try to apply those spy tactics to parenting is pure comedy gold. In Eden Academy interview scene, for example, Lloyd meticulously trains Anya and Yor to be the perfect family. They practice the etiquette, they practice the conversations, they even practice walking elegantly. And when the real thing happens, cows stampede through the streets and they get covered in mud, and Lloyd's entire spy brain, it just melts. And we're not laughing because he's incompetent, we're laughing because he's too competent. He's too controlled in a world that refuses to play along with him. And every single time Lloyd seems to think everything's going according to plan or everything's going to work out, you immediately know that it's actually not going to. And the idea itself, it becomes an entire running punchline. He's a man who thrives in espionage but flounders in empathy. And that's what makes him funny without being dumb. It's not his failure that we're laughing at. Instead, it's the mismatch between his precision and the emotional messiness that is normal life. Lloyd isn't the fool. Reality is. And that's the brilliance of Spy Family's humor. It doesn't make fun of Lloyd for failing. It shows the world constantly rejecting his control and his desperate attempts to hold on to it and hold everything together. The joke isn't on him. It's on the impossible idea that anybody can fully manage the chaos of life. His control is his comedy. Every overplanned mission, every nervous breakdown, disguised as total composure, it turns his perfection into punchlines, and his effort into something that's very deeply human. And I think that's why Spy Family, it doesn't mock Lloyd, it sympathizes with him. He's not a bumbling dad who means well but fails. He's a professional who's totally out of his depth, learning that people don't come with a mission manual. So in most comedies, you typically have two types of characters. The funny one, who ends up driving the chaos, and the straight man, who ends up reacting to it. So Lloyd is technically the straight man, but the thing is, he doesn't play it traditionally. Instead, he's panicking constantly. It's just that it's an internal panic. And I think that's the secret that makes it so interesting. His composure, it's a mask, and we, as the audience, are in on the joke. We see his calm face, but we also hear his internal monologue as he's just falling apart and unraveling. He's running complex risk assessments over every single Anya's sentence, while she's just trying to say, Papa is cool. And it's this contrast between his outer spy voice and his inner meltdowns that creates dramatic, ironic comedy. We know more than he does. We know that no one else cares as much as he does, and it's that disconnect between perception and reality that is the heartbeat of Spy Family's humor. So when Anya blurts out something revealing, Lloyd instantly leaps to spy paranoia. When Yor shows her assassin-level strength, he just totally rationalizes it away as, oh, it's just her fitness training. The more insane that things get, the more determined Lloyd is to make it act like everything is normal and nothing unusual is happening. He's a straight man in a world that totally refuses to play it straight. And that's why the show's funniest moments, they aren't necessarily gags or punchlines. Instead, they're reactions. Lloyd's strained patience, his suppressed screams internally, his fake perfect smiles. Lloyd is a spy who's great at deception, except when it comes to deceiving himself. The humor comes from watching a man built to outthink the entire world be completely undone by the unpredictability that is love and family. His poker face is perfect, but the cracks are showing, not from weakness, but from warmth. Every single anxious thought, every frantic overreaction, it's all proof that he's starting to care about this family. And the world, it doesn't break his cover. Instead, his emotions do. And I think one of the things that really makes Lloyd's comedy special is that it isn't cruel. We're not laughing at him, we're laughing with him. Lloyd, he isn't some clown. He's a man who's trying at his absolute best in just ridiculously impossible situations. And it's that sincerity that transforms what could be just a generic slapstick humor into something that's genuinely heartfelt. When Lloyd freaks out about Anya's school performance, it's not out of vanity, it's about love. He's terrified that his mission, and as a result, his family, will fall apart if she ends up failing. When he overanalyzes dinner conversations, it's because he genuinely cares how Yor feels. His mistakes, they come from compassion, not from incompetence. And I think that's the special secret ingredient in Spy Family. The punchlines, they always serve character growth. Every single comedic failure, it reveals a piece of Lloyd's humanity. He learns patience. He learns to value small, imperfect moments. He starts to realize that emotions, those very things that he's trying to control, they're often what makes life most meaningful. When a comedy makes you feel something while making you laugh, I think that's when it really truly transcends the genre. Lloyd isn't funny because he's clumsy, he's funny because he's human. It's the comedy that never mocks his effort, but instead celebrates it. We're not laughing at his failures because he honestly keeps trying, earnestly, over and over again. Every single misunderstanding, every overcomplicated plan, is his way of learning how to love, awkwardly, sincerely, and completely. It's empathy that fuels the humor. That ends up turning what could be just simple slapstick into something that's truly warm, genuine, and surprisingly moving. So let's zoom out for a moment and take a second to look at the writing. Because what Spy Family does, and what makes it truly stand out, is its balance of tones. The show walks a tightrope between multiple different genres. It's a spy thriller, it's a heartfelt family story, and it's a light comedy. And Lloyd's character is the bridge that connects all of those. I mean, think about it. Every single scene with Lloyd, it often starts out serious. He gives some detailed mission briefing, the camera angles, they're dramatic, the lighting is sharp, and then within moments, it just turns into slapstick comedy. Because his intense mindset, it totally crashes into the mundane world. He's analyzing the school's social hierarchy like it's some kind of political coup. He's calculating your smile like it's some coded signal. He's deciphering Anya's emotions like they're encrypted data. It's totally, completely absurd. But he plays it completely straight. And honestly, that's the genius. The setup is espionage, and the payoff, it's emotional chaos. And it's this contrast that keeps the humor so much more intelligent rather than just silly. Every single joke is built on a foundation of tension. It's the tension Lloyd creates by being too composed. And it's this tonal dance, and it works so well because the show respects him. He's never the butt of the joke, instead, he's the lens through which we view it. Through Lloyd, we experience both the drama of his world, but also the absurdity of living in it too seriously. And every single laugh in Spy Family, it starts like a spy thriller, and it ends like a dad joke. And that's what makes it really so funny. It's this tone, it flips on a dime, but it never feels forced. Because Lloyd himself, he bridges the gap. He brings the tension, the control, the cinematic gravitas of espionage, and the story, it just gently dismantles it all with affection. Each laugh lands because it's grounded in who he is. He's a man trying to apply spy logic to human connection. And the result is this type of humor that feels both sharp and sincere, high stakes, but also heartwarming. So now let's talk a little bit about comedy dad archetypes, and how Spy Family, Lloyd avoids falling into the traps that are common. In fiction, dads tend to fall into either one of two traps. Either they're the goofball dad, which is a lovable idiot, but he ends up messing everything up even though he means well, or they're the absent dad, stoic, serious, but far too focused on work and duty to connect emotionally with their family. But Loid Forger, he refuses to be either of those. He's not the bumbling comic relief character who loons everything for a laugh, but he's also not the cold, emotionally distant type we often see so often in the action series. Instead, he's both capable and caring. He's funny and dignified. His comedy, it doesn't come from him being a fool. It comes from his flawed perfectionism. He's a dad who's too good at everything except the one thing that actually matters, connecting emotionally. And it's that gap between his skill and his sincerity that's where the really funny humor happens. Loid represents a modern evolution of the father figure in anime. He's emotionally reserved, sure, but he's not detached. His struggle, it isn't about providing, it's about learning how to be present. And I think that's something that a lot of viewers they can relate to, even beyond comedy. Trying to juggle various responsibilities, trying to be perfect, trying to manage life like it's some kind of mission, only to realize that's just not how love works. And it's not that Lloyd's good intentions backfire, it's that how he approaches family like a spy operation. Every single plan, it collapses because emotions, they simply don't follow logic. And when he learns that, the audience laughs, because we've all been there. Lloyd isn't some comedy relief dad. He's the competent one who's trapped in a comedy. He's proof that being funny, it doesn't mean being foolish. His intelligence, his professionalism, his composure, none of that ever is sacrificed for a cheap laugh. Instead, it's those traits that become the foundation for his new kind of funny dad. One whose humor, it grows out of emotional honesty rather than buffoonery. Lloyd redefines the archetype by showing that fatherhood, it can be hilarious without undermining dignity. And it's that love, more than laughter, is what truly disarms him. So here's perhaps the deepest irony in Spy Family. Loid Forger, he's the world's greatest spy, but he's terrible at emotional espionage. Sure, he can read his suspect's movements in milliseconds, but he can't read his own heart. His entire job revolves around deception, but his comedy, it comes from the sincerity leaking through the cracks. And honestly, that's what makes this character both funny and tragic at the same time. He's built an entire life around pretending, yet every single time he pretends to be a father, he ends up actually becoming one a little bit more. Each gag, each overreaction, each awkward, perfect family attempt, it's another moment where his real emotions slip out. He's not supposed to care, but he does. And the show uses comedy as a confession booth. And every single laugh is another truth that Lloyd himself can't admit to. When he runs these mental simulations of Anya's happiness, we laugh, but we also see how much he loves her. When he overcompensates for Yor's clumsiness, it's funny, but it's also deeply caring. And comedy, it becomes the language of his emotional awakening. Lloyd's humor, it isn't a mask, it's a window. Every single laugh, every awkward operation, every overreaction, every single perfect straight-faced meltdown, it lets us glimpse the real man behind the spy. His comedy is the unintentional confession of someone rediscovering his heart. The irony is that the more he tries to play the role of a fake father, the more genuinely he becomes one. In trying to protect his mission, he exposes his soul. And that's what makes the humor so quietly heartbreaking and beautifully real. He's a spy who can hide from the world, but not from his own heart. So why is it that Loid Forger is such a great comedy dad? Well, it's because he's funny without ever being a fool. Because his humor, it grows from empathy, not embarrassment. Because every single gag, it reveals something real about him, some truth to his character. About how love disrupts order, about how perfection, it falls apart in the face of family and real life situations. He's a dad who can outwit entire governments, but he can't outsmart a 6-year-old with peanut snacks. A man who believes he control his strength, he's learning that vulnerability is often stronger. And the more he fails to act like the perfect father, the closer he gets to being a real one. And I think that's what really makes Spy Family special. It's not just a comedy or a spy story. It's a reminder that even the most calculated people, you can't just plan your way into love. You stumble into it, they laugh through it, and they learn. Loid Forger, he isn't funny because he tells jokes. He's funny because he's trying not to. And life, it simply refuses to cooperate with him. So the next time you see him staring blankly at Anya as she blurts out something entirely wild, just remember, that's not just comedy. That's character, that's growth, and that's what makes him such a perfect comedy dad. So if you enjoyed this breakdown and you'd like to see more Spy Family or other anime deep dives, and make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. It really helps this channel grow. And if you've made it this far, then consider watching some of the other Spy Family deep dives or other anime deep dives I've done. Well, thanks again for watching, and see you in the next video.